Hello there, fellow humans, and welcome to this video. And today we'll talk about the worst tier 10 in World of Tanks Blitz, and you are seeing it right. It is the WZ-111-5A, and I'm gonna go into that quite soon. But first, what is it about this tank that makes it so bad? Well, first of all, it's a collector tank, so you have to spend real money to actually get it. And what do you get for that spent money? You get, well, no hull armor, essentially, because most shots are going to penetrate. You're gonna get 2,500 DPM, which is quite bad. You're also going to get very mediocre penetration and only 7 degrees of gun depression, and the mobility is also quite meh for a heavium that it claims to be. So basically, you're spending 20,000 gold on a worse IS-7 that isn't very good at doing IS-7ing. So now, not even the PC wants me to play this tank, because the loading time is a few ages, but it's quite simple why this thing is that bad. Now, you have other bad tanks, like the VK-72, but at least it's free, and you can face hug, at least it has alpha damage. Object 260, at least it has DPM. You know, there's all those other horrible tanks. The MX-30B. I mean, it's very fast, so you can make that work somehow. It also has 2.8k DPM. So that all works substantially better than this thing, because you can't fight medium tanks because you don't have the DPM or the mobility, and you can't fight heavies because you don't have the armor or the DPM or the penetration to accurately do that. And you also don't have the gun depression to play hull down properly, because with 7 degrees you can't hide the cupolas completely, which means you're always vulnerable in that sense, if the enemy can aim, that is, obviously. So, you know, and I have to pay real money for that. For example, if you look at the Chieftain Mark 6, it costs the same money, but it's a substantially better tank. If you look at the 121B for 5,000 gold less, pretty much, you can get that tank. You have pretty much 1,000 DPM more, and you have better mobility. And you have somewhat similar armor. So, it doesn't really make sense to ever buy this tank, right? Mate, just pen me. I'm trying to prove a point here. It doesn't work when you're incompetent. There we go. You can't side scrape either because the armor is too bad, and you have the pike nose sticking out, so you're gonna get penned anyway. Which, you know, as you can see, you can't side scrape. So you can't do anything with this tank that is any useful. So that is quite simple. Why this thing is the worst tier 10. That was a very nice game to show. You know, I just couldn't do anything. In the Chieftain, I could have actually shot people because I had gun depression. In an IS-7, I could have tanked shots, so I would have been still alive. But in this thing, I can't do neither of those things. But then there is going to be those that, oh, but you need skill to play this tank. Well, of course you do. You need skill for every single tank. And that's the thing. Why would you start with a lower baseline when you can start with a higher one, you know? Because in a Chieftain, if you have skill, you're going to do 3,500 average damage. In a 5A, if you do have skill, you end up with like 2.8k. So that is not very ideal, I'd say. No. Obviously they're all hiding in a corner. But as we already found out a couple of months ago, that this thing has a very good camo rating while moving. So we'll be fine. Right, because that's what makes this tank great, right? Because it has a camo rating while moving. But yeah. Now we're gonna sit here, try to do something. Because obviously, out of one game, you can't really evaluate the tank. You know, if you just have one good game, and then from that one game you claim it's good or bad, that doesn't make any sense. You know, you gotta get some experience with it over a while. Because otherwise, every game is different, so you can't really get an accurate verdict from a single battle. However, when you look at all the stats of this tank, if you look at the price of the tank, it becomes immediately apparent that you're paying for something that is simply worse than what you can get for free. It is worse than the IS-4, it is worse than the IS-7. It is worse than even an E5. So, there is just no point. Why would you buy something that is this bad? And that is what makes it the worst tank in tier 10, because it's just so not worth buying that everyone that has bought it has pretty much just wasted their money for getting it. I mean, there are the rare cases where they actually enjoy playing this tank, but I can imagine that only being the weird and the stupid people. I mean, we can see it's definitely the stupid people. So let's go back here. Now this is not some random video, because it actually makes sense, right? The VK-72, it's horrible, but it has something to it. The MX-30B is horrible, but it has mobility. So this thing just doesn't have any of those. It doesn't have anything that makes it good or in any situation. You know, it's just worse than most tanks in any situation. You know, if you fight a medium, well, too bad. You're too slow, you don't have DPM. If you fight a heavy, too bad, you don't have the armor. So, and if you fight a well-armored tank destroyer, too bad, you don't have the heat pen. And if you then give up even more DPM to get the penetration, well, then you end up with pretty much less DPM than a VK-72, at which point, why the fuck would you even play this tank? Because the VK-72 then has more alpha damage. You can see how deep this is going, you know? They just, no matter what statistic you compare, it'll always come out worse, pretty much. And with a 70 goes gun oppression, you can't go hold down. So, rip. Mate, can you aim? I'm trying to prove a point here. You're supposed to aim. But yeah, as you can see, there isn't much. Like, this game's not been a good game. In like me actually having to fight for the damage. I was just sitting there and sniping people. That, I mean, I did 3.5k, yes. Obviously, it doesn't make it a good tank. You know? So that's the thing. Why this thing is the worst it can. Pay for something that is substantially worse than everything else in that regard than what it is compared to. And it's worse than the IS-7. It's worse than the IS-4. It is worse than a 113. Especially worse than a 113 because the 113 has like 1,000 more DPM. And it actually has armor. Like, it can't turn though, but still. So, you're paying for something that is horrible. And that's the reason why this is so bad. So yeah, what do you think? What is your worst T10? What is your worst T10 in your eyes? You know, because this is my opinion. What is yours? With that said, don't forget to like, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.